Hey everyone, me again. This will probably be my final video, my actual final video on this Pioneer 556 AK from their Forged Trunnion series. If you haven't been following this saga from the very beginning, I'll see if I can put it together into a playlist or something like that. But in it, I kind of discuss my initial impressions as far as build quality. I do a deep dive into magazine compatibility because these 556 AKs, they're not as standardized as far as magazines go compared to, say, something like the 7.62 by 39 or the 5.45 AKs. I look at accuracy, stuff like that. And throughout all that, the rifle ran fine, at least with the magazines that it liked, with pretty much any ammo, without any problems, until it didn't. And the problem I started encountering, and I'll roll in some footage as to what that looks like, but in short, the round would go off, the carrier would fly back far enough to pick up the next round, and then, unfortunately, the spent case would still be in the chamber. And this would happen really quite frequently. It wasn't like once in a blue moon. We're talking probably, several times per magazine. Sometimes, 2-3 times per magazine. Sometimes it seemed like it was almost every other round. So I tried a number of remedies. For instance, I tried cleaning it in case it got too fouled up or something like that. Not a problem that you want an AK to have, but maybe it's possible. That didn't really seem to make any difference. I tried a variety of ammunition, including stuff I've run successfully in the past. No luck there, 223, 5.56, brass case, steel case, various bullet weights, various manufacturers. None of that seemed to make any appreciable difference whatsoever. Ruled out extractor spring. Also, since the rifle was significantly overgassed, even by AK standards, I thought maybe, slowing down the bolt carrier might help. And so the easiest, cheapest way I could think of to do that was to get a extra power recoil spring from Wolf. It doesn't take any tools or much time to install. It's not the whole assembly, it's just the actual spring itself. But anyways, that didn't really seem to make any difference at all. One thing that did seem to, well, I guess the first kind of clue I got was there was a comment from somebody who apparently is experiencing or did experience a similar issue, saying that the chambers on these are actually kind of rough / too tight, or some combination of those two, and that when it gets fouled up can cause problems. And so one of the ways I thought I could confirm that is basically I took the rifle apart, took out the bolt carrier, etc., and when you put a live round in the chamber, I noticed that you pretty much had to pick at it to get it back out again, whereas if compared to some of my other 5.56 rifles like the Zastava M90, if you put a live round in the chamber and you just tip the rifle, it kind of falls right back out. So I figured, okay, I put a bronze chamber brush into a power drill and kind of went crazy for like a minute, trying to polish out that chamber. I checked that it didn't affect headspace. It wouldn't, it's bronze, but whatever, just to be careful. Then of course you clean out the residue, and lo and behold, that actually made the rifle work fine again. And so there I was, happily, blasting away mag after mag with this rifle, like nothing was ever the matter, until tragedy strikes again. I get a click, I assume that I'm out of ammo, I cycle the action, and a live round flies out of the chamber. Long story short, the firing pin broke. This is a firing pin that's in these. There's kind of the tip. Well, I don't know if it's going to focus on a spot that small, but it basically broke. So the firing pin broke at right around maybe 2,500 rounds, which by the standards of most firearms is probably pretty terrible. But by the standards of the firing pins that they put in these Pioneer AKs, apparently that's actually supposed to be pretty good, sad as it is. I've seen a lot of comments, reports, forum posts, reviews that say that theirs like to break at probably more like, 1,000 or 1,300 rounds. So the fact that it made it to over 2,000 is apparently supposed to be quite remarkable or something. But it has me thinking that the failure rate of these firing pins by 3,000 rounds has to be pretty close to 100%. And the reason I say this is because I've only ever heard of like two things happening. Either they break well under that count, or the owners just preemptively replace them with either like a Beryl or a AK-74 firing pin, just to not even have to worry about it. So if you have one of these, or you're looking at getting one, definitely be advised that that is almost certainly an investment you're going to have to make sooner or later. But in any case, I replaced mine with a Beryl firing pin. It went back to working just fine. until it didn't again. And this time I went back to having the same issues with the failures to extract. So I did the hyper aggressive cleaning again, and again it seemed to resolve the issue. So that's like double confirmation that the diagnosis is correct. And again, this apparently seems to be somewhat of a known issue because it was someone else that actually tipped me off to the possibility. So as far as where these rifles stand, my overall impression seems to be that the quality on these is genuinely significantly better than the old cast trunnion generation. I don't gather the impression that these are, dangerous to the shooter, as far as, they're not a hand grenade waiting to blow up in your face. So that's obviously a very big plus. I do think that there probably does need to be one more generation where they do need to iron out some additional issues. So in case Pioneer is watching, which I think they very well could be because they have commented on my previous videos before. But if they do that, they could really have a not bad rifle on their hands. So specifically some of the issues that I think that need to be ironed out, of course, is this rough chamber issue. Like I said, I don't think it's exclusive to me. Also, something about the magazine well location, and I've mentioned this in a previous video, but there does seem to be some inconsistency there beyond just it being a 5.56 AK. So whether that's locating the mag well or the center pin or some combination of those two things. But for example, some mags that I can run relatively, well, other people report in theirs don't even come close to fitting, and also vice versa. So I think something needs to be done on that front, and also these firing pins. Again, I understand that these are, the most affordable 5.56 AKs on the market, and in order to achieve that, they have to economize somewhere. And I don't mind, a lot of those measures. For example, that it came with this cheap plastic pistol grip, or the chintzy looking spot welded enhanced safety. These things, they're like aesthetic, and they probably would have held up just fine, honestly. It's not a problem. It's just, from an aesthetic standpoint, if anyone would replace them, go ahead and do it. The firing pin thing, I think, goes beyond economizing and kind of almost seems like cutting corners, which you don't want to do because this is, again, something that's actually critical to its function. It's not ideal. I think that should be addressed. But if they kind of iron those things out, really not too bad. But as it is right now, until they do that, it is a bit of a luck of the draw type situation. You may get one with a chamber that's not quite so rough. You may get one with a particularly fortunately located magwell. The firing pin thing, I think you're going to have to contend with no matter what. But that's kind of where I'm at with this stuff. If you have any questions, comments, corrections, of course, I welcome all of that. Again, I'm not an expert on any of these things, but that's really it, I suppose. Thank you for watching, as always.